Hi, I'm Johnny from UltimatePaperMache.com, and I just now finished putting some paper mache on the Lion King Junior lions, and I thought that this would be a good time to just see the differences between using the Titebond III Wood Glue, which I used for the cub, Simba, baby Simba, and the cooked flour and water paste, which I used for the lioness. And obviously the biggest difference is, well, the biggest one that's going to hit you if you're doing a whole bunch of patterns is that this stuff costs a lot of money. I mean, that's sort of obvious. It's a construction material, though. People use it to make houses, so it's really super strong. On the other hand, paper mache can last forever if you keep it dry. So I just wanted to do kind of a demonstration to see exactly what the differences are with the finished mask so that you can decide whether or not you think that it's worth spending the money for the Titebond wood glue. I'm using an Elmer's bottle to hold up my mask while I'm working on it, but the glue that's in the bowl is definitely the Titebond wood glue. Now, in the past, when I first started using Titebond wood glue, I did add some water, not very much, but I don't use water anymore. I decided that it just isn't worth the trouble, but you can. I mean, it doesn't hurt anything. I also normally use gloves when I use the wood glue just because I don't like the way it feels when it's drying on my hands. You do have to rinse the glue off the gloves every once in a while. You can do that just by going into the bathroom and leaving the gloves on and rinse them off. No matter what kind of paper mache you're using, when you're making something with fairly fine details, like around the eyes on little baby Simba and in his nostrils, you want to use a tool to kind of push the paper mache down into those spaces. And you would need to do that, whether you're using the glue or the flour and water paste. You're going to come to a point where it's really not very comfortable holding it. You're going to need to let it dry so that you can start working on another part of it later. And when you do that, put it over something. I used a bottle that my Elmer's glue comes in. You can also use a milk jug if you want to, the gallon size. And do put a fan on because that really helps it dry fast. I use the cooked flour and water paste for Nala. I don't use gloves when I use the paste just because I don't mind the way it feels on my hands. It actually feels kind of nice. But the one thing I do recommend is that even though there's a whole lot of different recipes for flour and water paste, you want to use the cooked flour and water paste. It's just 2 tablespoons of flour added to 1 cup of water. You put it on the stove and bring it to a boil, stirring constantly so it doesn't stick to the bottom of your pan, of course. And then you just let it cool off enough to work with it. It's really easy to work with, it feels good on your hands, and it makes a nice smooth surface on the finished mask. The one difference that you're going to see here on the video is that the glue kind of discolors the edges of the paper. It doesn't matter at all because you're going to be painting them, but it makes it look as though the glue mache isn't quite as smooth as the paste mache. And when you get up really close and looking at it, that's not really true. It's just that the edges are discolored by the glue. There are some differences. The biggest one, obviously, is this stuff is expensive and flour and water paste is almost free. 2 tablespoons of paste doesn't cost very much. And that one recipe, I think I was 2 tablespoons short when I made Nala. So you don't need to mix up very much. But you do need to mix up some new paste in the morning. If you just want to do 2 or 3 masks one day and then you leave it overnight, you do want to make up some new paste in the morning because it's an organic product and flour actually comes with yeast and it attracts yeast from the air. And yeast will it makes it less sticky. So the longer the paste stays in the bowl wet, the less sticky it gets. So I always make up a new batch in the morning, and it doesn't take it takes about 5 minutes to do, so it doesn't matter. Now, as for the actual differences, the strength really is the only thing that really matters in the end. And you can tell that the one that I used the paste on is much more flexible. The paper isn't going to come off, it's definitely stuck on, but there is more flexibility to it. The one that I used the glue on is definitely stiffer. I mean, it's still kind of, you know, it can still conform to the shape of your head, but it isn't as easily squished. And I only use one layer for both of these because of the cardboard really adds a lot of strength to it. If you think that the actors that are going to be wearing the mask are going to be mistreating them, maybe throwing them on the floor, hitting them up against a doorway or something, I mean, that happens. I do that all the time, so, you know, it does happen. If you think that's going to happen, then I would use the wood glue, just because it is a construction material. Basically, what you're doing when you use it with paper mache is you're creating really thin plywood. It is really, really strong, and it's going to last forever. If you think that the actors are going to treat their masks with some respect, which they should, they're going to be really proud of wearing them and really excited about the play, so of course they're going to treat them as carefully as they can. And if you're going to be making a whole lot of masks, like, you know, 10 or 20 of them, the cost of the glue might be a real deterrent. And in that case, I would say go ahead and use the cooked flour and water paste. I don't know why exactly, I can't explain it, but it took me longer to put the paper mache on baby Simba than it did to put the paper mache on Nala. And I don't know why that is, like I said, but it seemed to go on faster. It took maybe 5 minutes longer to make him than it did to make this one, so it wasn't a big deal. So which one of these should you use? I'm still recommending the wood glue, but it really is up to you, and I don't think that the differences are big enough that you should feel concerned if you end up using the cooked flour and water paste instead of the wood glue, as long as your actors are respectful of their mask. This one's lighter. I just now realized this one's just slightly lighter. Again, I don't know why. So that's all I have for you. Again, I'm kind of leaving it up to you about which one you use. I think either one will work just fine, but I think this one's stronger. Now, after you've made your mask, no matter whether you've used the flour and water paste or the wood glue, I really hope that you come back to the Daily Sculptures page on my website and show them off. We would really love to see how they come out. I'll see you there.